Homeschooling families have the amazing privilege of meeting their learners' needs in really unique ways. And one of those options is seek out niche classes and things that kids are really interested in. Perhaps they're meeting a particular interest or a need. And I am so amped for you guys to hear from these educators around me today. They have such a diverse background in homeschooling, as a homeschooling mom, as classroom teachers, as online tutors and coaches, and resource creators that support families. So you guys, welcome. And as we're coming to the table with all these different backgrounds, I would love to hear you guys briefly introduce yourselves and share a win from your tutoring or coaching practice, as well as why you think tutoring or coaching is an asset for homeschooling families. Ashley, do you want to kick us off here?
Yeah, sure. Hello. Thanks so much for having me and for putting this panel together. This is great. So I'm Ashley DiMercuro, and I have two young cats that one of them just jumped on the table and scared the crap out of me. So maybe edit that part out. Oh my God.
Never. Let's say it.
So, okay. I'm sorry. So I have an online tutoring business called Your Reading Tutor, and I have my own podcast called the Reading Project Podcast that was designed to help families and caregivers as they are supporting their own struggling readers at home. And part of the reason I wanted to have my own business is because I also homeschool my own two children, and I wanted to be able to have the flexibility to homeschool and also earn income. And then as I was pulling from my traditional public school background and homeschooling my own kids and tutoring kids in both public school and homeschool setting, I found it gave me a really just unique perspective into what it's like to be a learner today, and that, what's happening in public schools. And, a lot of homeschoolers often worry, oh, they're behind, or, my kiddo's not learning fast enough or at the same rate as public schools. And I will tell you that even kids in public school are not all on the same level. So, that's one thing that has helped me as a homeschool mom, because my kiddos maybe aren't necessarily, learning math for their age and grade level if they were in a public school, but they're learning it at a rate that's good for them, and they're not stressed and overwhelmed by it. And so that is really just such a gift, I think, for my children and for anybody who homeschools. And then I feel like for me, when people come to me for tutoring, I'm able, because I have that perspective, I'm able to really meet kids where they are and just really honor what they're working on right now versus, a traditional public school teacher might feel the need to get them to this certain place or on this certain curriculum, but we can really focus on what their needs are and why they're coming to you for tutoring. And that's kind of a win. But I also was thinking, when you mentioned about sharing a win, I think tutoring and homeschooling as an option, being able to access all these tutors, it can really help kiddos that have not just maybe a learning challenge or a learning difference, but if they're having some emotional or mental health struggles in the public school setting. I've been working with a student for about 2 years now that just really wasn't able to access education in public school, but his parents both work full time. So now I'm homeschooling him virtually. They're able to continue working to support their family, and he's able to thrive now as a homeschooler. So it's really amazing.
Cool. Oh, I love that. Oh,
Awesome.
What a good win. That's huge. Vanessa, go ahead.
Yeah. So my name is Vanessa Smith, and I am a holistic neurogrowth learning success coach. I'm also a credentialed science teacher and came from the classroom setting, but realized that it wasn't necessarily, where I wanted to be or how I wanted to help students, because you have to stick to that curriculum and you can't meet students where they're at. And so I decided to take a different adventure. And so now I get to work one-on-one with students, and like Ashley was saying, really meet them where they're at, figure out what it is that they really need, and then help them through times when they feel stressed out when they're learning something new, and provide them the resources to help them move through those feelings. And some of the wins for me are when the kids have those aha moments, like you're teaching them a science concept and, they might not be getting it, or, and then you try a different angle, or you do a little hands-on experiment or a demonstration, and then you can see the light go off and they're like, that's really awesome to see, with the kids. And as far as like tutoring or niche classes or coaching, like I think that a lot of us can provide some expertise, especially to, at times when maybe like science concepts get a little bit too hard as the kids get older. I think that expertise is important. And then also that personalized attention, because everybody does learn differently. And being able to, like in my case, I create these personalized and customized plans for all my students. And then we work, from where they're at to where they need to be and fill in any gaps.
That's
so
huge. That's huge.
Yeah.
Oh, so cool. All right, Margie.
Hello, my name is Margie Figueroa, and thank you, Melissa, for having me. It's a pleasure to chat with you again today. And I am part of Funshine Educational Services. I'm an online tutor. I'm also the lead teacher, solopreneur, like all of us here, running Funshine. And I provide math classes to homeschool students right now. I also tutor reading as well, but the homeschool students that I am providing services to right now is for mainly math. And one of the wins that I have had has actually been recently, where when I do the homeschool classes, I collaborate with the parents a lot. Like that open communication with the parents is huge, because as Ashley and Vanessa stated, it's very personalized. The personalized learning in homeschool is one of the biggest reasons why parents homeschool, right? Because they want to make it as tailored as possible for their child. And so one of the things that I love to do is collaborate with the parents. And through the collaboration with the parents, I have been able to see those aha moments, like Vanessa stated, and the growth as well. The growth from one day. I remember I have a student in particular that I started with in January, and she has shown almost 2 years of math growth in up to today. So in 11 months, which has been huge.
Awesome.
So yeah, it's been wonderful because of the collaboration between the parents and I, because of the personalized learning, because I've been able to tailor these lessons to be fun for her, and really take into consideration how she learns, the gamification, all those fun things, learning in a fun way, which we can't really do in the classroom. Because I do come from a classroom background. I was a classroom teacher for 13 years, an instructional coach for 1, an online tutor for another 1 year. So 15 years as an educator in all. And so, this has been the best, the personalization and the tailoring, which you can't do in a classroom, or you can, but it's very challenging. It's very challenging on top of, all the other demands that you have as a classroom teacher. So in a nutshell, that's me, and that's my win.
I love it. Okay, you guys. So I love the experience that we all come to the table with. Please hear this. We all come from classroom backgrounds. We all have an immense amount of experience, but here we are freaking out about kids making huge progress. Like, we're in this because we actually really love seeing the progress. And I can speak from my own experience, and I probably should kind of introduce myself in this respect as well, because I'm a homeschooling mom of 4. And I come from a classroom background where I taught foreign language. I taught Spanish to gifted middle school students, which was a very niche moment in my life. And then moved to an international school where I did ELL co-teaching, which was super fun to kind of step into and learn. So there's so much that we can kind of draw on from our classroom background. And I think now that we've got kind of our subject areas out there, the idea is I would love for everybody to share a little bit about resources that you would point parents to in your niche specifically, because there's a lot out there. I know I love certain tools that I'll share about too, but I want to hear what you guys would say for your specific subject area. What is something that you would kind of point them to as they seek out guidance in classes or tutoring? Now, these could be like marketplaces, or these could be like websites or things that you use with your own kids or books, whatever. Sky's the limit here. But the idea here is to kind of equip people for what they might need. If they're like, oh, my kid needs a little bit of science help, my kid needs a little bit of math help, my kid's having trouble with reading, what would you recommend? Anybody want to start there?
Sure. Yeah, I can jump in and get started. So I primarily tutor students in reading and language arts. But like Margie, I also dabble in the other subjects as well, especially for homeschoolers, because a lot of them come to you and maybe need more like broad, need more subjects, especially if you're doing like the majority of the homeschooling for a family, almost like a private teacher, would be doing it all, versus supplementing. So anyway, that was a little tangent. Sorry about that, but
no, but I love that's an option. That's an option. And there are people out there doing it. So I'm glad you mentioned it.
Right. Absolutely. So there are great teachers out there that can help you with just one specific subject. If like Vanessa mentioned, maybe that subject area is feeling like too hard for you. I hear that a lot from homeschool families, like, oh, when my kid gets to chemistry, I'm out, so that happens a lot. And then in my situation where I'm actually the primary homeschooler for, the primary teacher for this family, I do like all the subjects. So, but for reading and language arts, I think there are so many great online tools for books now. Like it's so amazing how we can access, whether it's like a Kindle book through an e-reader, on Amazon Kindle. They have, a lot of free books as well as low cost. I just had a big sale because my daughter's into Junie B. Jones right now. And like the audiobooks were like $2 on Audible. And so, there's so many options for you to get new books, different books, interesting, all different kinds of things in front of your reader. So if they're struggling to get engaged in a topic, or they're struggling to get into reading, they haven't found something they love, there's ways for you to expose them to like mystery or, nonfiction, or even like magazines. We use The Week Junior, which is a subscription magazine that comes to our mailbox for like current events. That's not online, obviously, but it's a great tool to get kids, reading about, geography and history and current events and what's happening in science and technology. And then we also use Epic, which is a platform online, Epic Books for Kids. I think it's something along those lines. Yeah. And they have like the e-readers where it's just like a Kindle style reader. And then they also have audiobooks, and they have read to me type books where you can look at the pictures and the kiddo can follow along with the pictures if it's a younger reader. So sometimes I hear from homeschoolers that they don't have as much access to materials maybe, or they're feeling like they don't have as much access because they're not in the public school. But I think now there really is so much online when it comes to, trying out different kinds of books and different materials.
Absolutely. I would add Libby to that list too. Libby is an app that connects to your public library. So if you have a public library card, or you have family members who don't use their public library card, you just snatch those barcodes up, baby. All right. Yeah. Vanessa, what do you have for science?
Yeah, so there's definitely a lot of really great resources out there, but some of my favorites are like the National Science Teachers Association has some really great resources for parents. And there's activities for K through 12 students and their families. And then it also gives some tips for busy parents to help their children to learn science at home. My favorite for like space exploration, NASA has the solar system exploration website and the universe exploration website. And you can zoom in on planets. You could look at all their moons. It has a lot of different facts about the planets and the moons, and then galaxies. And they just got really great pictures from all of their, different orbiters that they have out in space. So that's a really great resource. And then for the younger kids, it's the NASA Space Place. And I've used that with some of my students. And one of my favorites was when we all got to be a planet. So they have a little activity, you cut out the planet, but then you wear a little mask. It's like a planet mask. And then you talk about, yourself as the planet. So the kids got to be the planet and they got to talk about themselves. And all of us are sitting there with our planet face masks on, talking to each other. It was so cute. It was so cute. So that's an awesome one. And then for families who want to go outside and do some outdoor science education, the Beatles project is amazing. I love using their lessons. They're really great for anyone to teach their kids. And they have stuff like the decomposition mission, which teaches kids about decomposition, but the kids are out there and they're, either finding leaves or pine cones in various stages of decomposition. And so they get to order them, and then, you ask questions. And so it's really great for outdoor science activities. I really love that. And then, like Ashley was saying, the little news resource that she gets in the mail, there's Science News. And that offers free age-appropriate STEM resources for kids from 5th through 12th grade. And it includes experiments, explainers, and discussion questions, which is really nice resources for.
What was that one called?
For parents. That one's called Science News.
Science News. Okay.
Yeah, Science News.
Give me taking notes over here. Science News.
Yeah.
Okay. Rockin'.
So,
Okay.
I was thinking the
those are some of
same
my
thing,
favorites.
like as she's talking, I'm like writing all these things down, because science is definitely an area where I feel like a lot of homeschoolers, if it's not their own personal interest or like area of expertise, it might be, it seems like a lot of families struggle to incorporate it. So
Totally.
Yeah.
If I might add, Nearpod is a favorite, of mine in all areas. But Nearpod has some great self-paced lessons. So if my kids are ever like, what, we're going to the reptile house or whatever. Hey, I've got a Nearpod lesson for each of you in your Google Doc. Check it out. It's all about vertebrates and invertebrates, and then a couple about reptiles and stuff like that. And so we'll kind of jump into those. So it's kind of a fun, free, easy, quick thing to do. Cool. Margie, what do you have? Math.
All right, for math. So one of my favorite is Toy Theater. Toy Theater has lots and lots of virtual manipulatives. So if any family is not able to, purchase manipulatives, you can always use the virtual manipulatives on Toy Theater. They have coins, they have dollars, they have fraction bars, they have all kinds of virtual manipulatives, a clock, a bunch of really cool manipulatives for you to use. Or maybe you don't have it on hand at the moment. Just go to toytheater.com, and right there you have all types of
Cool.
I was just teaching coins to a student yesterday, and what I thought was really cool was that they have different currencies from different countries. So I had to go in there and look for United States, because there are so many other countries that they had as currency for them to use on there as well. I thought that was cool.
That's very cool.
Yeah, another one is Khan Academy. Khan Academy is a free, pretty much a whole math curriculum for up to, if I remember correctly, I think it's all the way to high school, probably even beyond that. Khan Academy is amazing. I signed up my own daughter, and sometimes she refuses to do it, but we usually use it more in the summer than anything else. But it's really cool because it has videos, and along with the videos, then they get to practice what's in the video. So the people recording the videos, the instructors, are extremely detailed and very easy to follow, which I think is important. And my favorite YouTube math teacher, Mr. J. You got to look up Mr. J on YouTube. He is amazing. He makes it very easy. There's times that I've had to help. Again, I'm talking about my daughter again, but it's because she's in Algebra 1. So I've had to look up videos on YouTube for Mr. J from Mr. J and kind of teach myself to then teach her, because she's already higher level up there. But Mr. J is my favorite math teacher on YouTube. So if you're stuck on a problem or stuck on a skill, look up Mr. J. Most likely he has a video on it on YouTube.
That's awesome. And Margie, I think one thing to note there is also like that age, like the tween-ish age. I know, Ashley, your son might be up there too as well, right? And so the idea of like that age, kids are starting to they want to be near you. And then all of a sudden they're like, get away from me. I don't want to learn anything from you. And so having that option, just have that in your pocket, have that in your toolbox.
Yeah,
the earpod lesson, great. You go do that. Mr. J, you go talk to Mr. J. You go on your Khan Academy for this one today. Tomorrow we'll come back and regroup and talk about it. But just having that option. Sorry, continue on.
No, you're good. You're good.
Yeah.
And then Khan Kids. Khan Kids is also related to Khan Academy. But it's for smaller kids, younger kids, probably until like 2nd or 3rd grade. So it's geared more towards, and there's reading stuff too as well on there. And it's a very self-paced app. So yeah, Khan Kids is really good too. It incorporates reading and math. And then if you want some gamification, WordWall, love WordWall. WordWall has awesome games, and really you can find for almost every topic. So, and it's more for, not for the teaching part of it, but more for the practicing of the skill. So it's, bringing in games for them to practice the skills, the math skills. Another one is Prodigy. Prodigy is also a website where they get to practice their math facts, and it's in a game format, and it's really great too. I believe that's free for homeschool kids. Don't quote me on that, but I think it is. K5 Learning.
We use Prodigy. I was just going to tell you that we use Prodigy with our homeschoolers, and that there is a free option, and there is also a membership, because my son is really into it, so we have the membership for him, and then my daughter is like only a little bit into it. She doesn't use it as often, so we just have the free account for her. So
I see. Okay, good. Thank you for clarifying that. Yeah. And then there's K5 Learning, which has a bunch of free worksheets that you can look up and print on K5 Learning. And then last is the public library. I have been at the public library so much, and it's not just for reading, it's also for math. There's clubs that they can attend. I know I'm getting a little bit off topic. It's not just math, but the public library is like my favorite place, because they have clubs for everything. They have classes, they have social clubs. I think that is a wonderful resource for not only homeschool families, but all families. They have such great things happening in the public library.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I feel like I need to also plug the library. And I was thinking, as you were talking about the library, that on the podcast that I have, the Reading Project podcast, I did an episode all about like how to take advantage of your local library, like how you can really use it to access different resources. And I have to plug the podcast because I have so many great other teachers come on as guests, and that could be a really great resource for homeschool families for reading and writing and spelling. When I interview someone, they bring their expertise and they have all these great resources, and there's so much out there. As you both were talking, I'm over here taking all of these notes. I've been homeschooling for a long time, teaching for even longer, and I still am hearing things I haven't heard before. So definitely talking to other families, talking to other teachers, and I think the podcast is just there are lots of podcasts out there. Obviously, I happen to love mine because I love my guests that come on there, but a lot of great episodes on there.
It's true. Real quick, I want to mention some foreign language or even public speaking options. A lot of the public speaking tutoring students that I have are highly motivated kids who probably with a little bit of a nudge from their parents, but they're interested in what we're talking about. So I use something called Engoo, ENGOO, and it's a fantastic free news site. I believe they're based in Japan. So you get a lot of different news sources that a lot of perhaps Western hemisphere kids would not necessarily see those stories too often. So I love that. I bring up those articles. They've got vocab, the pronunciation, as well as a short article, and they're all really nicely leveled. So those are really nice for kind of equipping kids with current events. And then as far as foreign language, our family loves using Preply. We take classes, and we'll talk about classes in just a second. But the idea of hopping onto a foreign language can be daunting, because perhaps we as the parents don't speak that language proficiently or feel like we could teach it. And so Outsourcing, I know, Ashley, you guys use Duolingo for a little bit, right? And then there are lots of other websites out there to use. But if you're looking to take classes, this is Preply is a great option. There are others out there. So let's go ahead and shift into classes. I recently went through this where we were leaving one French teacher because she had a baby. She was moving on to other things in her life. We loved her. She was great. We needed to find a new French teacher. Cringe. How do I find somebody I trust? Somebody I feel like my kids are actually going to learn from. I'm not wasting my money. We have the amount of homework after class that we feel comfortable with. All of us as online tutors and teachers, we have some sort of process, some sort of onboarding process that we go through with our families, right? We're talking about what, the cringy moments of like teachers, we have some sort of process, some sort of onboarding process that we go through with our families, right? We're talking about what, the cringy moments of like, what does this cost? What's the cancellation policy? All of that. There's that part, but there's also the instruction part, which is the most important thing, right? And so figuring out ways to navigate that process is really important. And I think for us as online tutors, I think it would be helpful for parents who are thinking, okay, great, we might be ready to step into online classes for the first time. What do we do? Do I sit next to them and like hover just out of screen, just out of frame? Do I lurk at the door? Do I leave them completely alone? Do I get on a second screen and watch the class? What are some of your tips that you would give to parents who are maybe setting up classes with you or with any online teacher in the future? What would you guys say? Ash, go ahead and start us off.
Sure. Yeah. I think that it depends on the learner a lot, and your student best of all. And so having a conversation with your kiddo about sort of how they would feel, what I'm trying to think, what would they be most comfortable with, I guess is the best way to describe it, because some kids want their parent nearby in case they have a tech problem, or I've had students where the parent would stay nearby for like the first couple of sessions, but then I noticed by like the third or fourth session, they would like just get the child on and then say, okay, I'm just in the other room, So I feel like most of the time my students are on their own just with me, and the parent is like somewhere else in the room. I do have some kiddos with like some challenging learning differences, some attention struggles. And so in those cases, I tend to, the parent might need to be more involved because there might need to be some redirecting. I mean, I'm sure all of us here can say that we have a lot of tricks up our sleeves for keeping kids focused, but if they walk away in a virtual class, there's not really much I can do. So yeah, where are you? So that has not been a huge problem for me in my practice, but in cases like that, then the parents are nearby.
Margie, what do you think?
Well, for me, I piggyback on what Ashley said. I agree 100%. It all depends on the learner and their, personalized needs. But I teach upper elementary kids, so they're a little bit more independent. And so, I give them one link, and that's the link that they use the entire time. The link doesn't change. So they are very independent. One of my learners actually has a schedule. Her mom does a schedule for her. So I'm on there on the days that she meets with me, and she has her Zoom link, and her meeting ID and her password laminated and ready to go. But my point is, have those things accessible would be my my suggestion for parents. Have those things accessible. And during the Zoom, during our learning, the first session especially, we do a lot of experimenting with the tools, and I'm sure you guys, if you use Koala Go, I'm sure that you guys have those experimenting parts too. And that way they're able to learn about the tools and all of that. So like I said, I work with mostly upper elementary with homeschool kids. That's where they usually have those difficulties with math sometimes. So that's what I do. We do the experimenting with the tools, and they're pretty independent. So
that's huge. So far, behavior things and attention things, tech things. I think these are big moments that make parents who are signing up and, paying good money for classes might be nervous about. So hey,
Yeah.
your teachers are on top of this. We recognize that
Mhm.
this is an issue or could be an issue. And this is something that we are very experienced with and we have tricks up our sleeves for this.
Absolutely.
Vanessa, what were you going to say?
Yeah. So, I'm along with what Ashley and Margie were saying, like I use a Wacom pad with my students and we use Group World for our classes. And so, we'll get some drawing in at the beginning and get used to using the Wacom pad. But yeah, I think, maybe for parents to stay within earshot for sure the first few sessions. And what I've noticed sometimes is that sometimes my students will behave differently when the parent is close by and when they're just with me too. So like in the beginning, for sure, hang around, stay within earshot, be available for, some tech issues or, if they need help with something or, like if the kid gets up and walks away out of the screen, that's helpful to have a parent around because I've had that happen too. But, give them some independence also, let them, work with their tutor or their coach and because we establish that relationship with the student and get to know their needs and their little quirks and what they like and all of that. So sometimes they're not as willing to have a conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
it takes some time
But for them to adjust to their new routine with you and all of that, absolutely.
Yeah.
So. Totally. And I would add to, you guys have covered a lot of the, the rapport, the tech, the behavior. I would even add like, is there rigor in the class? Are they really doing stuff? And there are so many tools that we have, Margie, I think you mentioned a while ago, Vanessa, Wacom or Welcome Pad? I don't know.
Wacom. It's WACOM, and it's just a little, pad with a pen, and you can write on it, and whatever you write is on the screen. So if I'm writing some sort of physics equation or something, it's much easier than having to use a Word doc or, try to get all the right symbols in, So it's, helpful for me too. And then for the kids too, they can write on the screen or solve the problem or whatever we're doing.
Absolutely. And there are so many tools that we can use. I mean, Nearpod, I look for progress. I look for what kids are showing me in class so that I can show. And, all of this is recorded. I tend to record my classes and then they're shared with the family so that they can see. Heaven forbid there's any issue. That issue is recorded and everything is out there in the open. So again, transparency as much as possible is really important as well. And then I would even say, like, what does homework look like? Because we could send PDFs and there's some printing involved. Or something I do with my students is we share a Google Doc and I will copy and paste the homework in there. Parents have the link, kids have the link, I have the link. We're all editors. We're able to see it. And then for my public speaking and, expository writing kids that are, in high school, we're able to do some serious editing, serious comments in there. And so there are so many ways that we keep the rigor in our classes. We can document progress. And if you need some sort of evidence, that evidence can be produced. And so it's just a lot of communication, I think, and those early executive function moments. Margie, I love that you brought up like the printed schedule. That's helpful for the kid. It's also helpful for us and it's helpful for parents too. So I think there is a lot of just the setup. And once the setup is there, things just tend to flow. So I think that's a really, you guys have really, really amazing ideas there. Anything else before we move on? I think we covered a lot. All right. I'm going to go ahead and move on to this next question, which, if families are homeschooling, they're chugging along, or their kids are in traditional school and they're like, I need some sort of support. We might need some niche class here. We might need some support here. What might be a tripwire moment, a moment where people are just like, this is the breaking point. We do need a class. What would you kind of say, especially in your area of expertise, would be a moment to look for that help, to seek out that help?
I think for me, when for my own students, like my own children, we recently were having trouble, like when my son was learning to read, and he just didn't want to do it the way I wanted to teach him. And so we hired a tutor. Like, I am a reading tutor, but I hired somebody else to help him. And it wasn't long term. It was just a little bit of time to get some foundational skills down. But I think if you are starting to really butt heads with your child over the subject and it's just resulting in tears and frustration, like then it's starting to erode your relationship, like your parent-child relationship. And that's so important to really nurture and hold on to that connection with your kiddo. So I think if it's resulting in a lot of, just pain and suffering for everyone, like that might be a good time to just step back and let someone else try to engage them and take that over so that you can stay in that, you can stay their safe place for them. So that's a big one for me. And I think for reading in public school, a lot of parents come to me when their child starts to notice their peers and feels like, oh, I'm not reading the same books as them. Like, why is my friend reading that chapter book, but I can't read it yet? And starts to feel bad about that. And so then there becomes like some social emotional stuff and confidence that comes into it. And even though I'm a reading and language arts teacher, a big part of what I do is building kids' self-esteem and confidence back up so they can see themselves as a learner and like, okay, I didn't have it then, but look at what I've achieved. I'm able to learn. I can get there and read those same books. So
Vanessa, this sounds like something that you do, right? I mean, actually, that's so foundational.
Definitely. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Definitely.
Would there be any other things that would bring kids specifically to your neurogrowth coaching practice?
Yeah, so definitely like with the struggling science concepts, because either it could be because the concept is too complex and maybe a parent, like Asha was saying, you get to that chemistry, you get to the physics, and it's like, okay, well, I can't really teach Newton's 3 laws of motion. So, seeking out help, but also a lot of the foundational, basic science concepts too. If there's gaps there, then, and you don't really know what they are or whatever, but so if there's, struggling with concepts either because of missing gaps or because the concepts are too complex, that might be a reason to seek extra help. Also, another reason is if you have a student or learner who's aspiring for a science related career. And so to let them kind of explore the different sciences that they're interested in, because, science is, it just creates all of the critical thinking skills. You get to be curious, you get to fail, and that's fine because you just learn from whatever the mistake was that you made in your experiment or whatever, and you ask why. So, allowing kids who are aspiring to be some sort of a scientist to get these enrichment classes can really provide them with a deeper understanding and a solid foundation. And then, if there's like a lack of interest. So, as a learning success coach, I would kind of try to figure out, well, where's this lack of interest coming from? And can we make the uninteresting interesting for the student, and then help, give them the tools. Because if they feel like it's hard or they just have a block towards it, let's figure out what those blocks are. Why are you feeling like it's hard? And then just give them the tools to let them work through it. Because maybe they really do like science and they just don't know, but they have had some experience with it that wasn't so great. So, yeah.
I love that you brought up the enrichment piece, because I think that can be a reason. Like sometimes families only think of tutoring for if their child needs help with something, if they're behind. But I think that enrichment can be a really great opportunity for these niche classes and tutoring. Like if you have a kiddo who's feeling a little bored in a certain subject in public school, or just like you said, is really motivated or really interested in a subject area, then you coming to, like, I had a student come to me that was this really strong reader, but she just needed like a little bit of work with fluency. So we were able to like read really great books together and have these great conversations about comprehension while like sprinkling in fluency practice, So I think enrichment can be a big reason to find these niche classes as well.
Yeah, I have a student who, she's struggling with reading, but she's got like this very like adverse reaction towards learning words or anything like that. So I'm helping her with her reading through science. So, science vocabulary or, reading about science, because she just loves science. So I was like, well, let's do reading through the science and see how that goes.
That's awesome. Margie, what would you add here?
Well, what Ashley and Vanessa brought up were on point. I agree 100%. I wrote them down so I wouldn't forget. But yes, if you see yourself, butting heads with your child over math, in my case, it's just, that's number one. Your relationship and your connection with your child are number one. So if you need to outsource in order to repair that relationship and kind of work with that connection, then it's worth every penny, in my opinion. And also math, some people just say, but I'm not a math person, right? I'm not a math person. So that would be a great, reason to outsource. Well, my child is at a certain level in math, and now I've just hit my peak and I'm done, which is kind of where I'm at with the algebra 1. But anyways, you hit a certain peak and you say, all right, from here, it's more difficult for me. So, just outsource that. And that happens, from my experience, it happens around 4th, 5th grade level math, which would be like the fractions, maybe even, beyond the times tables, that type of level math. Then it's like, okay, we got to outsource. We got to find, a tutor or a teacher to really help with this skill or concept. What I love about what I do is that a lot of the times the parents come to me and they say, help, 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 but they'll just ask, okay, teach me how to teach my kid. So sometimes it's not just, teach my kid fractions. It's teach me how to teach my kids fractions. So I've had a couple of parents that have sat in while I'm teaching the child's fractions. That have sat in, they take their notes, they're doing, the child is participating in the session, but they're looking at the strategies and they're looking at the tips and the methods that I'm teaching their child as well. And so sometimes it's, I believe it was Ashley who mentioned it, that sometimes it's short term. It'll be a few sessions. And then the parent just takes over, learns from you, or maybe, the child has reached that level of math or reading that they need to, or science that they need to, and the parent just takes over from there. So, I would encourage homeschool parents that don't see this as, well, I failed. I'm failing at this homeschool thing. No, you're not. You just need a little bit of help. You need a teacher or an educator to hold your hand. Let's go through it together, and we can do this. So I encourage them to sit with their child. Sometimes it just depends. It depends. Sometimes the child says, get out. Leave me alone. Let me do my session. It's my time. But other times they sit and they learn and they learn from there. So also, like Vanessa mentioned, the struggles or the gaps in their learning, whether it's science, reading, math, or foreign language, any subjects, those gaps, if you will see it as they move on to higher level math or any other subject, you will notice those gaps, especially in math with times tables. In my opinion, a lot of the tutoring that I do in math is filling in the gaps of the children not knowing their times tables. Mm-hmm. So they say, but Margie, I got them flashcards. But Margie, we do games. But I do this, but I do that. Okay, let's do a couple of sessions. Let me teach you how to teach your kid times tables, and then we'll go from there. So especially with the higher level, because those times tables, if they don't have it, it ain't gonna happen. And then also for math, going back to the topic of enrichment, I love to bring in real world scenarios in math, because a lot of the kids and some parents too, some adults say, well, when are they going to use this? When are they going to use this? Well, me as an educator, I can bring in those real world scenarios. We've done projects with let's build a food truck from scratch. What kind of food do you want to do? How much are you going to spend on the food that you need for your food truck? How much are you going to charge for the meals, etc.? So there's so many project-based learning that you can do in math that relate to real world things, like being an entrepreneur or planning a vacation or things like that you can do as enrichment. So maybe they don't have the struggles, but maybe they need just that little push to really see the connection between math and the real world and how they can connect the two.
Absolutely.
And that's huge. Yeah, that's huge, that real world connection, because a lot of kids, especially like in the classroom, they're learning things in isolation and don't really see how everything is connected, because everything we all teach is all connected, and so I really like that. What Margie was saying is, you get this worldview, this interconnectedness, and how what you're teaching relates to the world around you. So if we can, express that to our students too, then that's another way for them to really grasp on to whatever it is that we're helping them with.
Absolutely. And you guys have hit the nail on the head. I mean, there's support, there's filling gaps, there's interest-based, and something that, especially coming from like a gifted education background, sometimes kids just have an obsession or something they're really excited about. And if we can de-academicize that, if we can take that out of, grades, just don't give me a grade for this. I just want to explore it. I just want to love it. I just want to do my thing, and really learn. If we can be that person, or if as homeschooling parents, we can provide that in a tutoring session, or, a class or whatever it might be, fantastic. And we've talked mostly about live tutoring, but there's also things like self-paced classes. Like a couple of my kids love Roman numerals. So I was like, I'll make a Roman numeral course. And, there are videos, and I'm teaching kids on a little whiteboard how to do Roman numerals. And that is a, 1 week thing. It's a niche thing. And there is no need to make this long session, semester long course about Roman numerals. It's a short thing. And that's a fun thing to add in. So especially during, we're talking as we lead up to the holidays. If families are like, hey, we just need to put the books away here at the beginning of December and chill for a little while, great. Grab some of these smaller courses, grab a 4-session package with a tutor or something like that. That's just low pressure. It's not really intense, and it's kind of out of the norm. That might be something exciting for kids. So tutoring can take so many forms, and I love what we've got to talk about here. Now, we have talked about a lot of things. So I want to hear one final brief thought from each of you. Just what do you love about serving the homeschool community, perhaps in a specific way? Maybe not traditional school students as much, but the idea of a homeschooling family. What do you love about serving them in particular? Ashley, we can start with you, and then we'll go to Vanessa and then Margie.
Sure. It is hard to pick just one thing, because I love working with homeschool families. And I think the one thing is that I am a homeschool family as well, right? I'm a homeschool mom. And so I really get it. Like, I get why families choose to homeschool. And, it's for a lot of families, there's a strong reason there. And it's a big part of their world. So I think for me, being able to like really connect with that family on a different level, because I homeschool too. So I think that's one of my favorite things.
Connection. Cool. Vanessa, what would you say?
Yeah, I just really enjoy being able to like get to know the student and then personalize and customize my coaching plans for them, because it allows me this creativity that in my lessons and developing things for the students that I didn't really have in the classroom to do. And so to be able to do that for my students is really awesome for me, because it gets my brain going, and then it gets me thinking like, okay, well, they're going to like this, I'll put a little something on the screen because they told me they liked it. And then, it just is making that personal connection and, getting it to where, meets their needs. And then with my coaching methodology, what I really like is being able to kind of like rewire their brains to reach their full potential, and then show them how to learn on their own. And then I get to support students with science by breaking them out of the boxes they've been put in, so that way they can expand their perspective on what's possible. So
that's huge.
That's fun.
I love it. Margie?
My favorite part is the freedom. The freedom to be able to say, or to collaborate with the parent and say, okay, where do you want them to be? What's your goal? What do you want them to accomplish? Rather than, okay, let me see where they need to be right now. And, and what I'm referring to when I say that is, the standards that have been put in place by the public school system or the traditional school system. Sometimes they do ask me, you're a classroom teacher, you're an educator, where should they be? And I have to be a little bit careful with that. I don't know if Vanessa and Ashley and Melissa, you have any experience with that, but gotta be a little careful with that. But, just that freedom of, okay, where do you want them to be? What do you want to accomplish? And let me help you get there. Mm-hmm. And that goes back to what Vanessa said with the personalization and the connection that Ashley mentioned. All of that tied together with the freedom I love it.
Absolutely. Well, and I think there is a place for standards, and some states require certain things. So I think that's the sticking point for a lot of homeschool families is, am I doing something wrong? Am I, stepping a toe out of line? I don't want to mess anything up. So as long as families are they understand what's there, and we as the tutors often need to kind of check on that too, to make sure that we're supporting rather than hindering there. But I love that you brought that up because it is something that is a worry, especially as families are just starting out. So if that's you, please do check out HSLDA if you're in the US, Homeschool. Oh golly, I'm going to forget it. But hslda.org, and that'll give you all the requirements that your state has. If you're outside the US, go talk to your Ministry of Education. But the idea here is that we're really following the rules and doing everything legally, but then we're working on progress. Wherever they are, whatever standard they need to get through, we're going to make some progress. And it may be way beyond the standards, or it may be right at the standards or below the standards, but we're going to be making progress. And that's pretty much the baseline of any state requirements that are out there. Something that I would add to this is just the privilege of being included in a family's education. I know that our kids don't say, hey, we're going to French class. It's, hey, do I get to see Petru today? And they're really excited to see the person. It's not the class, So I think that's something that, all of us, I think, count it as a privilege to work with families. So I count it a privilege to know each of you, and I thank you for all that I've learned from each of you, and look forward to all that's coming. So please do. Everything is linked below. If you're watching this and you're like, hey, I need to talk with her a little bit more. I want to learn a little bit more about this. All of us are posting things about what we love to teach. And so please go follow each of these people and check out what they are teaching, what they're doing, what they offer, and probably send them a DM if you're like, hi, I have a question about this. I think all of us would also be open to just, answering a quick question and saying, what about this? Could you help with this? So thank you to you all who are here today, Ashley and Vanessa and Margie, and to all who are watching. If nobody's told you yet today, thank you. Thank you for what you're doing. It's very important.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
See you out there.